Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this amazing and beautiful YouTube channel. My name is Skits, and yeah, you're watching me again in my humble abode. This is my room in my home office. You can see the computer over there. Yeah, if you're familiar with this YouTube channel, you know very well where I am right now. And I would be filming outside, but the thing is, as you can see by what my GoPro is capturing right now, it is a very gloomy day. So I cannot shit on Mark and make fun of him because he is in a country where it's very cold and the weather is more terrible than in Venezuela. He's from Canada. So since it is very gloomy and it is, it might rain potentially, I'm not going to film the usual yap session in the park or at the park. I'm going to put the camera right here where I usually put it when I am recording most of my YouTube videos. Excuse that angle. And yeah, I am going to talk to you guys about today's topic, today's video, and it is regarding, I'm thinking about titling this YouTube video, I don't have friends anymore, ? Because it is a question. It's not necessarily an absolute, right? I yet have to figure it out myself. But yeah, do I have friends? ? And it's something that I have been thinking about lately, because I don't know. At 36 years old of age, my life is very different today than it used to be a few years ago, and not necessarily even a few years ago, just a couple of months back. And maybe I am feeling a little bit lonely as well, because I really have not spoken to the people who conformed my social circle, right? Or my friends. I really haven't spoken to them in a long time. Or not maybe I haven't really spoken to them, but we haven't really spent quality time together, right? And it's really, really been a long time. Now, what is going on? I also want to answer a couple of questions, right? Skits, are you sad upon having this realization? Are you sad that at 36 years old of age, you don't have any friends? Like, does that affect you in some way or another? Are you really that lonely? Do you want to have friends? And I will try, to answer all these questions. And all right, let's start by this one. Do I want to have friends? Short answer, yes. I miss having somebody that is not Mrs. Skits, my girlfriend, or my immediate family. I have a very good relationship with my mom and my dad, but and I also have a very good relationship with my siblings, both my older sister and brother. I have an older sister and an older brother, and my younger brother and my younger sister. I have very good relationships with my immediate family, but I just don't spend a lot of time with them, right? And Skits, back in the day when Skits was a young man, a child, and a teenager, Skits had a lot of friends. And it certainly does feel very different when I compare who I used to be or how I felt back in the day to who I am right now and the lifestyle that I kind of lead or live. And it can certainly feel very lonely at times. I swear, right? Or I could give you my word that for some reason, I don't know why, I've been thinking about this specific topic. And maybe it's because when I start thinking about it, I feel like I can't tell, right, my family or Mrs. Skits certain things, and it would just be better, right? Or it would be more amazing if I had just a different individual who used to exist before to confide in certain things or to do certain things, like maybe playing video games or, watching a movie or talk about anime or, just do friends things with, right? So, yeah, it does feel a little bit lonely, but the longer time passes, right? Let's say that there is a sort of pain that I feel, right? Just thinking about Skits being very lonely and not having a friend. So there is a lot of pain, or not a lot of pain, but there is pain, certainly. But the longer time passes, the more accustomed I get to the fact that, yeah, Skits doesn't have any friends. So I just start doing things differently and behaving differently. And yeah, I start doing things independently, right? And it is kind of, kind of a shock. And the odd thing is that I don't think I am alone in this boat, right? I've seen in the two websites that I frequent the most, which are YouTube and Reddit, I've seen a number of videos, a multitude of videos of people talking about the very same thing that I'm talking about right now. I am X, my name is X, I am X years old or Y years old, and I have no friends. And in Reddit too, I see the occasional posts in subreddits like Life or, Confessions, and people feel really lonely, and people talk about not having friends for the longest and longest of time. And I kind of feel a certain way about that. It is a little bit sad. It's not the end of the world, but, there is, let's talk about loneliness too, right? There are two kinds of loneliness. Sometimes you seek to be alone. Maybe you are, you want some time to yourself. You need to do things alone. You want to block all the outside noise, and maybe you want to partake in a hobby, and that hobby you do alone, let's say reading. And certainly there are moments in life, in my life as well, where I have sought to be alone, but that never has been something permanent. Speaking for myself, I love being alone and I love spending time by myself, but not entirely, and I think it goes, the equation, the math of this goes, the longer periods of time that you spend by yourself, then the more you start craving company. There are also moments in time or in life where you are not looking to be alone, where you are simply just alone, and you feel a negative way about that. And being lonely in that situation hurts. It is sad. It might not be my immediate situation because I do have people that I can spend time with, primarily Mrs. Skits and my family. But I do miss the days, right? And I am missing right now, a person that I could just play video games with. I don't have anybody right now where I can game with. And everybody in my immediate circle or my immediate friends, they're all very busy and we're all leading very different lives. And things today in 2025 are way different than they used to be. I miss having friends. There are things that I really, really do miss. Hanging out on Discord for hours and hours just talking about, non-essential things. Anime, video games, movies, politics, what's going on in the world, what's culturally relevant. I don't have that person anymore. I guess I have you guys. But then again, you who are watching this YouTube video, 99% of the probability is that you're not my friend. We're not friends. We might know each other, and I certainly do have a relationship with the people who support me or my subscribers, but we're not friends, right? So I'm 36 years old. Does it look like I'm having like a midlife crisis? Maybe, I don't know. But I just wanted to talk about that. I've been thinking about this for a while now. I have a notes app on my phone, right? And normally I write a lot of like script ideas or just titles for YouTube videos or things that I really want to talk about and share with you guys. And, this YouTube video title, do I have friends? Or I don't have friends anymore, ? Is something that has been sitting with me for a while now. It's been making noise in my head. And maybe it kind of bothers me. It kind of bothers me to accept, perhaps, that, yeah, things are very different now in 2025 than they used to be. And maybe talking about it is a way for me to cope. So, yeah. And believe me, it's not necessarily the end of the world. There are things that could be substantially worse, right? But, I'm kind of letting it simmer. I'm kind of letting it sit as if I am a soup that is boiling in a very slightly burning, pan. And the more I marinate this idea, the more I just want to talk about it or want to share it and kind of cope or come to terms. And if you've been following me for a while, I don't have anything to hide really. I'm the open book kind of guy. And yeah, I just want to be transparent. And maybe you watching this YouTube video, or you who's listening to me right now, maybe you're also dealing with this. So yeah. Or what happened? What happened? Other than everybody's busy living life. And I guess the older you get, the more absorbed you are into the things that you have to do to just simply live. Being in Venezuela is pretty particular. I don't think there is a person that I went to high school with, or just school simply, plainly, or college, that lives here anymore, right? A lot of my friends have moved abroad, and a lot of my friends have certainly tried to find, excuse me for the cough as well, sorry. My friends, a lot of the people who I used to be friends with back in the day, they've moved. And it's just a reality, the living conditions in Venezuela and the job market and just everything is very, very complicated, and it is very, very difficult. And, people who have common sense or who just want a better quality of life move to a country that has better opportunities. And that has been a immediate reality to almost everybody, like I said, that I studied with back in the day. And I've also embarked on this spiritual journey. Maybe I don't talk about it as much as I want to, but I'm learning how to be a Christian and trying to be a good Christian, or just reading the Bible a lot or studying, and mostly those two things, just trying to acquire more knowledge and wisdom, have kind of isolated me. And certainly in this path of, spiritual awakening, you stop, hanging out with people who don't add anything of value to you spiritually. And, it kind of gets lonely at times. But let's also say that, a lot of my friends are between the ages of 25 to 40, and everybody is busy living their own lives. And you can't fault a person because of that. I think that is something that naturally happens. People drift, and people certainly drift apart when you're not cultivating that relationship or that friendship. And I also am to blame. I don't want to come across as like a victim here, like, oh yeah, the world has betrayed me, or the world has hurt me, my friends have abandoned me. No, I also have a lot to deal, or a lot to do with that. The reason why I am talking about this, like I said, it's because it's just something that is producing a lot of noise in my head. I've been marinating this idea for a little bit now, and it is just the reality that I'm in. How close am I? I'm pretty good, right? Yeah. So it is what it is. It is a little sad, but it is what it is. All right. I am curious to see if that might be your case too. Do you have friends? Do you want friends? Are you feeling lonely? Is it more normal? Is it something that is more commonplace today than, let's say, a few years ago? Are you having a midlife crisis? Because certainly it feels like that on my end, right? So I just want to get a conversation started. And yeah, I also wanted to talk about this. I wanted to get this off my chest. I feel like that is like an obligation of mine, you know, talking to you guys, whoever's watching or whoever's listening, about real things that are happening in my life. So, yeah, if you do feel like me, right, and if you have no friends, let me know in the comments down below. What is your personal experience? I would love to know. Maybe there are more people than I would imagine in the same boat as I am. So, yeah. And with that being said, this is Skits Tony. And yeah, I am 36 years old and I don't have friends. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next YouTube video or live stream. Boom!